Hello, thank you everyone for joining us today. We're so excited to have you here to learn more about this exciting and very expeditionary voyage to the Svalbard archipelago. Before we get started, I just wanted to make a few housekeeping notes. Everyone on the line right now is muted. However, if you have any questions at any point in today's presentation, please type them into the questions pane and we'll answer them at the end of the webinar. For those of you who are just learning about Zegrahm Expeditions, I wanted to give you a little background on the company. We were founded 28 years ago by 6 explorers and friends who wanted to make a career out of their passion for exploring the world. Today, 2 of our founders, Mike Messick and Jack Grove, are still leading trips for us. We travel to all 7 continents on expeditions by land and sea. Our small ship cruises carry about 100 to 140 guests, and our wildlife adventures and cultural journeys are designed for a maximum of 18 guests, depending on the destination. Unlike other tour operators, our calendar of expeditions changes from year to year. We plan each new season based on feedback from our expedition staff and guests, along with extensive research and scouting from our operations team to build a unique lineup of trips each year. We literally sit around a giant map of the world each spring to plot out where we are going to go. We are also all-inclusive, which means virtually everything is included in the cost of our expeditions. All activity options, including nature hikes, zodiac cruises, and cultural tours, gratuities, meals, which include beer and wine with lunch and dinner, transfers, gift certificates for expedition gear, and so on. Finally, probably the best thing about Zegrahm is the world-class team of leaders we assemble for each expedition. These are the people who wrote the books and have spent so much time in each destination that they can provide an in-depth information on the wildlife, history, and culture. They are not only there to educate and inspire you, but also to make discoveries right alongside you when out exploring each day. And that is the perfect segue for me to introduce you to our presenters today. First, we have John Nicholson, who is our Director of Planning. John has been with Zegrahm for 21 years, and during that time has overseen virtually every aspect of the company. But because John is an avid traveler, he has visited nearly 100 countries and every continent, many several times over. He is perfectly suited for all planning of our unique itineraries, including creating new itineraries each season. We also have Nick Adolph, who is an expedition advisor who's been with Zegrahm for a little over a year. Nick's love for travel was sparked when he first left the US as a 14-year-old exchange student to Australia and has since worked at various resorts in the Caribbean, Breckenridge, and the Grand Tetons. He was most recently on our Tahiti to Easter Island expedition and is also excited to be joining the Svalbard expedition as well. And with that, I will hand it over to John and Nick.
Hey, hello everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are. So we want to give a great overview of a fascinating archipelago north of Norway. We have a map up. This trip starts in Oslo. We stay right next to Oslo Airport, get everyone gathered there, and then fly north to Longyearbyen in the Svalbard archipelago. This archipelago, if you've been to Antarctica, this will definitely complete your polar exploration. It's a great place to see wildlife and incredible scenery. We hope to do a full circumnavigation, even though it's not on the map. We do have a great expedition leader, which we'll give more details on in a bit. Dan Olson, who is our polar expeditionary, who's our polar expert. And the plus at this time of year is it's 24 hours of daylight. So there's never too early or too late to see what's out there. So we will now sort of go over a bit about the trip, and Nick and I will discuss the various parts as we first arrive in Longyearbyen.
Thank you, John. So yeah, once we arrive in Longyearbyen, again, this is the largest settlement in Svalbard. The town boasts a little over 2,000 permanent residents, unless you count the sled dogs. Before we embark on the ocean adventure, we will do a city tour, explore the Svalbard Museum, and hopefully connect with some of the locals. You'll board the ship in the afternoon, and then we'll head on out up the coast.
We'll be using the Ocean Adventure, which we like to use her in the polar regions because she's got the highest ice class of a non-icebreaker, which enables us to get further north and into fjords that might be inaccessible to other ships. She's very maneuverable, and she's an ideal polar ship. So from the moment you step on board, the dramatic scenery begins. There's lots of outdoor space to search for wildlife, for birds, whales, and observe the passing landscapes throughout the voyage. Her small size, she holds just 120 guests, and maneuverability allows her to get close to the wildlife and otherwise inaccessible shores. And size of boat and ship in Svalbard is so important. There's lots of ships up there, but many are bigger, and going on a smaller vessel gives you a lot more opportunity to see things. It also has a great fleet of Zodiacs. We're very insistent on having enough Zodiacs that we can get everybody off at one time. And we can certainly do that with the Ocean Adventure. She also has 2 boarding platforms, so we never have to worry about if there's a large swell on one side of the ship, we can use the other, or we can use both. And we use the Zodiacs to access remote shores for nature hikes, as well as for scenic cruisings along seabird cliffs, among icebergs, past glaciers, and allow us to get up close to views of wildlife.
Excellent. And as we noted earlier, this is a very expeditionary cruise. Our schedule is going to be flexible to make sure that we make the most of our nature stops depending on what we find. We're going to focus on wildlife. Things that we expect to see are going to be ample amounts of a variety of seals, walruses, laying out on the rocky outcroppings, as well as colonies of Arctic terns and other bird species throughout. When we are able to get ashore, we'll be doing nature walks, which will have great opportunities to observe the seasonal blooming of tiny but colorful tundra flowers. Hopefully, we'll also have a variety of whale sightings who will be found throughout this trip. They'll be able to observe from the ship as well as from the Zodiacs when they're ever around feeding from the nutrients coming up from the sea.
And certainly historically, Nick, we've had great success on this trip of seeing a variety of whales. So much as we never like to guarantee wildlife, I think you will see whales if you go on this expedition.
Excellent. So again, with the expeditionary nature, we have an idea, we have a plan. However, our stops are going to be dependent on ice, the sea conditions, and again, maximizing our viewing of wildlife. So we'll kind of talk through what our plan will hopefully be. Again, none of this is going to be guaranteed. Again, we're just going to go to, but these are also the places we'll talk about today are things that we have done on past expeditions. So we'll review our overall plan. The first stop we'll do is going to be Polypinton. Polypinton is a gravelly beach which offers easy access for walruses to rest. Our past trips, we've been able to get fairly close for great photography and observations. Again, you have the dramatic scenery in the background, and then hopefully these beautiful creatures in the front ground for your photography. Again, we'll get back on the ship and keep heading north to Leftenfjorden. Leftenfjorden will cruise through dramatic scenery of fjords, through the mazes of icebergs, and arrive to the face of the Monaco Glacier. Monaco Glacier is named after Prince Albert I of Monaco. He led an expedition to Svalbard in 1906. His oceanographers and his team helped photograph the glaciers for some of the first time, gave us some of our most historical collection of data about this area. Hopefully when we're at the glacier, we'll be patient, and with a little luck, we may actually get to see the glaciers calving, a truly impressive spectacle with the breaking ice cracking like thunder, kind of echoing all around us throughout the fjord, close enough from our fleet of Zodiacs as well as the ship. In addition to creating hundreds of icebergs, the falling ice dredges up nutrients from the sea floor, making it a favored feeding area for whales, seals, and seabirds. Things we can expect to see, the black-legged kittiwakes, as well as the occasional ivory gull. And of course, with this expedition, our main focus is hopefully going to see the ever popular polar bears. The abundance of prey from those nutrients seeking to get the most out of it will be, again, great prey for the polar bears, hopefully ample viewing for us.
Thanks, Nick. And I will just second again, like Wales, we've not had an expedition to Svalbard that has not seen polar bears. We're able to get quite far north. They move further north in the summertime. So I think we have an excellent chance of seeing it. The other thing I want to mention on sort of the expeditionary nature of this trip is our ship and our expedition leader will stay in touch with other ships and expedition leaders to find out where polar bears or other animals have moved. And that's why we keep it expeditionary, because if there's a lot of polar bears in one place and it wasn't where we planned to go, we will go where the polar bears are. So the experiences in Svalbard have a bit of similarity. The islands are definitely distinct, but we try to encompass all of the geological formations, the fjords, and to give you a good representation of the entire archipelago, even if we adjust a bit from what we have scheduled. So we continue north up to Moffin Island, which is right directly north of the island of Spitsbergen. We've been to this area many, many times. We go there on just about every trip and know that the level gravelly beach of this tiny island are the perfect resting place for walrus. It's also a protected walrus sanctuary, so the animals have little fear of humans. So you can get some great photos to take back. It's very entertaining to watch these huge creatures interacting with each other and listening to their unique vocalizations. In fact, it can be quite loud and a wonderful experience. The furthest north we go to is Soya Island. And at that point, we continue on and hopefully do the circumnavigation. But it's a remote island which is known for its seabirds. And by going in July, we have a great potential for getting up here. This is where the ice would be its thickest. But with the ship and going in the prime season of mid-July, we should be able to get here. There's colonies for several species which can be found nesting on the rocky slopes. The largest is a colony of dovekies that are fairly easy to observe, especially in the morning and the evening when they depart and return in massive flocks. We also may find Atlantic puffins who like to create nest burrows in the craggy cliffs. And this is where having Zodiacs on board and being able to get on Zodiacs is ideal, because we can take the Zodiacs off the ship and bring our guests right up to the cliff face to see all the puffins, which a ship that doesn't have as many Zodiacs, a ship itself couldn't get as close to the cliffs. And the Puffin Cliffs are amazing things to see.
Excellent, thank you, John. So as we said, we will make a full attempt to circumnavigate Spitsbergen Island by cruising through the Hinlopen Strait. So this narrow strait has stunning views of the sheer basalt cliffs. Again, amazing chances for wildlife and birding. Again, Zodiac cruising, where we'll hopefully find some whales, walruses, seals have also been spotted here. Do want to know, all of the photos that you are seeing have been taken on our past expedition. So it gives you a really good depiction of what you can expect to see. When we can make those expeditionary stops ashore, we'll be hiking around this dramatic scenery. Again, fantastic photography opportunities.
Right. And Nick, thanks. One other thing on the hikes, we often offer different abilities. We have short hikes which focus on nature and may go a little slower. And we also always have the survival of the fittest hike. For those of you who have been on a past expedition, those will be the longer hikes. So we try to have excursions on land that match people's ability and interest for the day. One of the other highlights of this area is the Alki Fischelef Cliffs, which are on the eastern part of Spitsbergen. Not only are the cliffs incredibly scenic, they also attract thousands of breeding seabirds, thick-billed murres, glaucous gulls, and black-legged kittiwakes. So lots of bird life and wildlife. You'll cruise along the cliff base to observe the comings and goings of this busy colony, again, likely by Zodiac. Is how we would normally do it. Okay. Our final scheduled stop is at Edgioya Island. As we get further south, we'll reach here whether we go the circumnavigation or we go through Hinlopen Strait. This is the third largest island in the archipelago. It is uninhabited, but there are small hunting cabins scattered around the shores on this island. Most are abandoned, but some are in use. It's a great island to get some good walks in as well. You also have a good chance of seeing reindeer here. That's one reason the hunters have come here, but the herds are now mostly the prey of polar bears. So it also gives us more chance to see polar bears. In the past, we found females with cubs in this area. And from there, we head back to Longyearbyen before we fly back to Oslo and overnight and before heading home.
Excellent. So just want to take another moment to talk about the Ocean Adventure a little bit more, give everyone some details. If you have heard of this ship before, if you have been on this in the past, we're really excited because it did recently undergo a dry dock renovation. So again, 120 passengers. This is one of the best expeditionary vessels for polar cruising, again, as John has talked about. Again, completely refurbished here. Down below on the pictures, you can see some of the renovated cabins. All of the bathrooms have been completely remodeled. The public spaces have also been upgraded. And then again, like I said, for anyone who's heard about this ship in the past, it has been equipped with 2 brand new Rolls-Royce engines to make sure that we are successful on our cruise throughout the archipelago. Currently, just want to mention too, we do have space available. It is limited. I believe our first and second categories are currently sold out, but there is space in our other categories. So if you are interested in joining this expedition, you'll want to call us right away. We'll have those details coming up in just a moment.
And a Zegrahm expedition is not an expedition without our field staff. They are what bring everything together that we plan and sell here in the office. And they're the ones who deliver the experience to you. We have a very experienced staff. If any of you have traveled before, you likely have traveled with one of these leaders. Our expedition leader is Dan Olson. He leads in primarily the polar regions. He does our Antarctica programs as well as polar. He lives in Alaska. He's been working in the field for many years and is a very flexible, great guy who's able to really take into account what's available, what the guests would like, and what is safe to do. And then Kelsey is our cruise director. She's the ever effervescent Kelsey, who makes sure everything for you goes well on the ship. She takes care of all the landings, coordinates getting off, back on, and any special needs you have. And then these are just 4 of the naturalists, historians we'll have on board. I believe we have 10 staff on this, but a couple of them, we have T.H. Bauman, who is the historian. So he will give a lot of the historical perspective of Svalbard. And then Tom Sharp is our geologist from Ireland. He will explain a lot about the glaciers, glaciology, and the rock formations. And he actually makes geology very interesting. And then we have Matt Forsberg, who is a naturalist. So we'll be talking about a lot of the flora and fauna. And because of the extensive amount of birds you'll see, we have Jim Wilson, who's Irish, who will be the ornithologist on board. All of these will be out on all landings. They also will give lectures when we have some time at sea. So it brings a very complete educational experience. And Kelsey will make sure you have a very relaxing, enjoyable experience on the ship. So again, our staff is second to none. They're what really make the Zegrahm Svalbard expedition special.
Fantastic. So you may be wondering, what is going to be included in the cost of this expedition if you do plan on joining us? So a couple things we want to highlight here. All of your daily activity options, including the Zodiac cruising, nature walks, any cultural tours, museum stops that we will make, are all wrapped up. Also included are your gratuities, all of your accommodations, like we said, including those overnights in Oslo, as well as your time on the Ocean Adventure. Again, as John was mentioning, you will have to be able to participate in our world-class lectures from our fabulous expedition team. All of your meals on board, as well as group meals ashore, including soft drinks, beer and wine during lunch and dinner. And then your entrance fees, taxes, landing and port charges, all included. Your arrival and departure transfers on your group dates will also be included. We do have gift certificates to help you get some expeditionary gear to make sure that you are well suited for the conditions in July in Svalbard. And then all of our trips will come with medical expense and emergency evacuation insurance to keep you safe.
Well, thank you, John and Nick. That was very informative. It looks like we do not have any questions from attendees today, But if you do have any questions, you can feel free to call the office, or if you would like to make a reservation for this trip, please do call Nick. He is ready and waiting to take your call. Thank you guys so much for joining us today, and hope to see you in Svalbard.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thanks.